Hi, Jason Thomas, CTO of OpenC3, here to talk to you about a new feature released in Cosmos 6.7 that's going to make upgrading Cosmos a lot easier going forward in the future. This is part of the Cosmos projects, and so let's get started. I have right now running Cosmos 5.9.0. This was released way back in July of 2023, so it's over 2 years old now. I basically just cloned our project from our enterprise repo and then just started it up. So this is going to be going way back, but it'll show you how we can upgrade to basically whatever version you are at all the way to our modern release. So we updated our documentation to tell you how to do all this. If I go to the docs and go to the documentation, in the getting started page, the upgrading is where all this new information is. This page has been here before, but it has been heavily updated since we've added this new feature. So we talk about our upgrade philosophy, our cadence, and then we added a little bit of notes here on, hey, first upgrade to 5.13.0 and then 6 before proceeding. And we detail all of the different steps you have to do to upgrade your Cosmos project. So I'm on Linux right now, so it talks about how you stop it, how you use the new upgrade script, how we go and start it and run it again. The thing I also wanted to point out is this upgrade migration process in the docs. We talk about semantic versioning and things like that, but then we call out specific versions that were critical during an upgrade. Now, again, hopefully people are past 5.13.0 by now, but that one we changed some things, renamed some min.io volumes, and there was a migration script that allowed you to keep all your old data. So that one was an important one. Obviously, the 6.0 release, we upgraded to Vue 3, Vuetify 3. So there was, if you did custom tool development, there was a pretty big migration guide for that. But otherwise, if you didn't, it was pretty straightforward. But those are the two key points we do want you to stop at and make sure that you've got a working configuration. So if I go back to this, the first step is I'm in my Cosmos project. And again, this is on my non-production machine with all of my plugins. So I'm testing this out before I roll it into my production system. So I want to stop my current Cosmos application. So if we go back to the terminal, we can say openc3.sh stop. That will stop all the containers. And if we go back, the next step, this just got released, right? So, and if you're before 6.7.0, which of course most of us are, you have to actually download this script manually. So here's my OpenC3 upgrade.sh script. There's also one for Windows. So if I click on that, it's going to open up a new link. I can just download it from GitHub. And then it says, move it into this project directory and then make it executable. So if I do that, I can say, move from my downloads, this upgrade script right here, and then I'm going to make it executable. And now I can actually just run it. And that tells you how it's used. You basically give it a git tag. We tag all of our releases, and we've been doing this since the very beginning. You give it the tag that you want to upgrade to. And then you can also pass in a preview flag, so it'll show you all the things it's going to do before it actually applies the tag. So since we're at 5.9, we know, okay, according to this table, we definitely need to stop at 5.13 and run this migration script. So let's actually go and do that. If we go back again, we can say OpenC3 upgrade, and I'm now going to say 5.13.0. And let's do the preview just for fun and show you how that works. This is showing you all the diffs. So, I mean, quite obviously right off the bat, we're going from 9 to 13. I'm on the enterprise release, but these same instructions apply if you're on enterprise or you're on the core. And then there's a lot of other things that got added, things that got removed. This diff is actually quite intensive, which is why upgrading got to be a bit of a pain, because there is a lot of stuff you had to add to both like the compose files, the .env files, things like that. So we're going to say, okay, that looks good. I'm actually just going to apply this. All right, and now it's applied. If I do a git status, we can see that all of those diffs have been applied. And so then now that we're going to 5.13, I do have to make sure that I get this enterprise migration shell script because we are running on enterprise. So I'll go out to here, download this file, and come back and move it into this directory. Migrate enterprise. I've already previously got that other one here. I can just remove that one because I don't need that one. I need the enterprise one. So we're going to make that executable. And now we just run it. Make sure again that you're using the correct migration script. If you're on core, there's a core one. If you're on enterprise, use the enterprise one. So that applies the migration. Now that that is done, I can get status again. Here's my migrate script, my open. Those are the two that are not tracked, but everything else has been applied. Again, if you just want to open up the like the env file. So this is interesting because since this was a 404 not found, what you'll notice in this enterprise script is it requires you to have the GitHub personal access token set because it's going to try to go download a bunch of these files. Since I did not have that set, those files just got 404 and overwritten. So in order to mitigate that, you can either edit that script directly and just delete those lines. To get out of it, since I forgot to do that, I'm just going to upgrade to 13 again, and it reapplies them. And now if I look at my env file, it's set. So either edit the script, remove those pieces of the lines, you don't really need those, or you can just redo the upgrade. So now we're on 13 and we can actually run the software again. So we're going to start everything back up, and you can kind of monitor how it's doing by doing a Docker PS. You know, we're 6 seconds, 7 seconds. So if we go back to our browser and refresh, it does take a couple seconds for everything to come back on. And now if I log in as the operator, I'm on 513. I'm still at this old UI, UX, and some of the things have changed around a bit. Some of the styles have changed around. This will take a couple minutes again, or seconds to get booted up and connect all the interfaces. But one of the things that we can do in telegrapher, for example, is we can look back at the telemetry data that we were collecting. And if I do like my favorite temp1 here, I can add this item in. And we start graphing it in real time, but I can pull this back to, again, like when I first started this, we'll say, let's say 30 p.m. This is all Mountain Standard Time. And so you can see it started, there was a bunch of downtime while I was actually doing other things and getting this video prepared, and then I restarted everything. But the important thing is I have my old data from when I started it off in that 5.9.0. So the migration was successful in that I can still have all my data. The Command Telum server is now connected. So everybody's up and running in this 513. This is obviously not where you want to stop. This was just a stop off point. Again, in this upgrade, we needed to run this in order to run these migration scripts, right? So the next point that we want to stop at is 6.0. You don't necessarily have to stop here. This is just telling you that we did some additional things to change ports around. So if those ports affect you, you might want to take a look at these configuration changes. But I'm going to jump right to 6.0. So if I go back to my terminal, I can stop. And actually, this is a good point to git commit all these changes, because you're at this kind of stopping point. You did some testing. Okay, 13.0 works. So once we stop, and actually that is called out in our instructions. So I have a point here where it says, test the new Cosmos version, ensure the plugins start without errors, verify you can graph. We did that. Perhaps run some scripts in disconnect mode. Again, whatever you need to do to validate, verify, whatever, that everything is working the way you expect it with your set of plugins. And now we commit the changes to the project. So we're in this project directory. I can say, again, git status. And I can blow away this migration script now that I know that it works. So we're just going to get rid of that. We're going to keep our upgrade script, but we're just going to do a git add of everything else that's there. And then I'm going to do a git commit, and I'm going to call it upgrade 5.0 5.13.0. So that's at 13. We've already stopped. At this point, we can basically go through the same steps again. Again, we're not running anything, so I can run my upgrade script. And now I want to upgrade to 6.0.0. So those changes were all applied. Again, if you do a diff, now we can see, okay, there's all these things that have been added. Again, this makes doing these changes very, very easy. Prior to this, you would have to kind of manually copy these files over, and I know people were missing pieces of things that we were changing. So these changes have all been applied. Since I don't have any GUI changes, I can just start this up and see how it looks. So I'm going to say run. And we're starting up all the containers. Again, this takes about 30 seconds. We'll let that start running. If I go back to my local host, get rid of that one, and we will refresh. You sort of go through these phases where you get the bad gateway, but then it's just actually booting. And if you just hit refresh, there we're up and running as the operator again. And I've seen this where the Astro icons are not quite loaded when you're first starting up. This does go away, so if you just give it some time. Again, we haven't really loaded the rest of the UI, so we do a little refresh in here. We're still booting, we're still coming up. Don't panic at this point. You just got to let everything come up, and the init container is basically running in the background is what's happening, because there are upgrades and there's migrations that are happening while we're going to 6.0. All right, so we're getting some of these icons coming in. We're loading all of our interfaces. We're back to the current Cosmos Astro styling, so it's more of the muted blues rather than those kind of bright blues. And we've got all of our icons in here, and now we're looking very good. Again, we can kind of go back into Telegrapher if we want. I'm just going to graph again we can just graph from an hour ago. So there was a point where we didn't have any data. We started up our graph. We were doing this transition where again we didn't have data. Then we again powered down, and now we're graphing again. So you can see we've preserved the data throughout these various upgrade processes. Like here's the data from way back here. This initial batch when we first started, we were running through here, and then finally we didn't give it much time to run. That's why these things are kind of choppy, because we're just blasting through it. We're just making sure that we can upgrade. At this point, we're like, okay, 6.0 looks good. What's the latest version? Again, exact same process. 7 hasn't been released at the time of this video. So what I can do is if I do whatever testing I need to do, I can do a stop. And again, this is where there's a good point. You've done all your validation. You've got all your plugins. You've done whatever testing you need to do to say, yep, this feels like it's working the way I want it to. Now I can go in and commit this to my project. And again, if you're doing this like on a validating a production environment, like on that 13.0 spot, that's where you're going to want to go back, run that production, run that script on your production machine, make sure that's all good. Then have everybody come up to 6.0, bring your production machine along. Most people are going to have already made it past that 13.0. And that was really a sticky one where we had to actually change some of the Docker volumes, which is why that migration script happened. So we've stopped. I do like a git status. Again, these are all the files that we did to get over to 6. We have a new Grafana plugin. So we're just going to do a git add all again and git commit upgrade 6.0.0. So we blowed away some of our old gems. We got some of the new gems. And again, you're just committing this project directory. Hopefully you're pushing that out to your own CI/CD pipeline, your own Git server. At this point, let's go up to the very latest. So I'm going to do our upgrade script again. Okay. So what's interesting here is I actually deleted this thing, and I didn't want to delete that. But when you're applying these diffs, since that wasn't there in the new version, it actually got removed. So if that ever happens to you, again, you can just go right back to the upgrading thing, go back, re-download it. which I'll do. And then I can just simply move that back in here, open C3 upgrade, and we'll chmod plus X. So you do want to actually look at that, git status and see what it's really going to be deleting and adding. So at this point, I want to go to 6.6.0. Again, after this is released, should probably be 6.7.0. If I apply that, oh, another example, 6.0 was not a valid tag. So I forgot to put the V. These are git tags. We always start them with V. So if you see that big giant list, it means you forgot something or you had an invalid tag. If I do that one, now I'm there. I can run. I can start it up and say, and sometimes I'll do run. Sometimes I'll do start. There is no difference in the project. If you're building from source, start actually builds everything from source. We don't recommend doing this, by the way. We recommend using these project files. And in there, start and run are the exact same thing. So run is really the more correct verb to use because you're just running the pre-built containers versus starting them all from scratch. So we're going to let that come up. Again, you can kind of monitor what's happening with the Docker. And then if I go back, this thing had shut down. Now we're back up and running. If I log in, now I'm at 6.6.0. You might be at 6.7.0. At this point, with 6.7.0, that upgrade script is part of the project. So if I look and I do my git status here again, you'll see like, okay, here's my .env file. This upgrade file is here, but now I also have these files. And this is the actual upgrade script that you want to keep. So at this point, you do probably want to just get rid of this copy because we've been basically copying it from the project now that we're using. And now I can add everything else in here and I can commit and say, upgrade 6.6.0. Again, hopefully you're upgrading to 6.7.0, wherever you're at. And then now I got rid of that and now I actually have that script to run. At this point, it should be as easy as just doing OpenC3 upgrade because it's now part of, oh, and I had to change you shouldn't have to do this in 6.7.0. This is a local bug that was already been fixed. But if I do a +X on my scripts and my upgrade, it's calling that lower level script. And so you can basically just directly do this now. So I can say, okay, I'm gonna upgrade to, again, V 6.6.0, even though I'm already there. I can do like a preview. What's that gonna look like? Okay, so there was some comments changed, things like that. So that's where you're at. And now that should be as easy as doing start, stop, build, upgrade. Upgrade should just be a one-liner. It'll apply all the diffs. So any little subtle things we're changing in like compose or any of those traffic files, those will all come along for free. So thanks for sticking with me through this long video. I hope your upgrade process is much, much smoother in the future. If you guys run into any problems, please reach out on GitHub. If you're a customer, you can email us at the usual spot and enjoy upgrading Cosmos. Stay with us. We love, we do upgrades all the time because we're closing CVEs, we're updating dependencies, and we're rolling out new features. And we've got a lot of really cool things planned in the pipeline. So thanks.